back in. It's Ryan Lipsey here with Haylie Collier at Ticor Title. How we doing, Haylie?
Good, good. I'm really excited for our guest we have here today.
Yeah, we are pumped. Today it's an honor and a privilege to interview a real estate attorney extraordinaire here in San Diego County. I've been doing title 19 years and I've been referring Alan for about 17 years or so. Alan, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Yeah, Alan Enochs of the Enochs Law Group, is that right?
Enochs Law Group, that's correct.
Perfect. So we were just chatting off camera a little bit of what types of scenarios, and we refer quite a few people, our realtors, our investors, our bankers, to Alan for real estate law per se. But if there's any trends or any major stories or any scenarios you could walk us through to give the viewer an idea of how they can utilize your services.
Can I, on that, I'm just kind of curious, before we dive into all the minutia and the craziness of it, what does a real estate attorney really do? Because it's so broad, right? Like, you have so much of array, it's just real estate, right?
Well, true. Most of my clients are real estate investors. They invest in real estate and they encounter quite a few different problems. The majority of the problems that they encounter have to do with legal issues as well as what I call physical issues with the property. We get involved when there's legal problems with the property. We hold ourselves out as real estate problem solvers. Okay. We don't lead with going to court and suing people. If we can solve the problem without having to do that, the client's usually all the better. The cost of litigation is just astronomical. Sometimes it's necessary, but insofar as we can avoid it, we will try to avoid it if necessary.
One of the reasons I love referring you is you're a bulldog and you can climb up to the details of the case with the best of them, right? And but you try to prevent that or avoid that at all costs, yeah?
Well, not at all costs. It depends upon what the alternative is. I call it sending in the suits. Part of what makes us effective in resolving problems without having to litigate is the fact that we have experience litigating. We have experience going to court. That lends itself to the other side, that's the opposing party to the conflict, wishing to avoid the conflict as well. Okay. And if you have somebody that knows what they're doing, that's familiar with the court system, that oftentimes lends itself to an attractive settlement.
Because nobody really wants to go to court.
Nobody should.
Nobody should.
No, nobody should.
We do know there are those people out there that, what do we call them, like sue happy? Sue you for
over
anything.
Litigious.
Yeah.
So what's a kind of a juicy story or something really that we can caution, a cautionary tale, if you will, that we can share with the audience that you've been through or that you've saved your clients from millions or, walk us through that.
A lot of our transactions are commercial. We do get involved in some residential. On the residential side, a common legal problem that arises is failure to disclose. Oftentimes you find property owners who own a piece of real estate, it's usually their largest investment in life, and all of a sudden they discover that their idea as to what the property is worth is false because there are problems with the property. So in order to get the value that they have in mind, they'll oftentimes fail to disclose problems with the property.
Like somebody died in the property, or the whole addition wasn't permitted, or somebody died and it just slipped their mind, just conveniently.
The neighbors knock on the door. Didn't you hear about that triple homicide that happened in there?
It used to be a crack den.
What?
Yeah, you'll be surprised at some of the things they failed to disclose.
And fraudulent documents are pretty common, right? So you have fraudulent reconveyances of loans and just make $200,000 mortgage go away. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, we did have a case a few years ago that involved somebody falsifying what are called deeds of reconveyance. That is a document that releases the deed of trust from the property or the mortgage from the property. There was a notary involved. They were forging the bank signature. There was a notary involved notarizing the signature, and they were releasing bank loans that were encumbering property, and then the properties were being sold. As unencumbered. There was an entity involved in it that was holding itself out as a foreclosure rescue entity, saying we can solve all lender problems, but that's how they were solving the problem. They were falsifying deeds of reconveyance.
I bet you they ended up in court.
It was massive. It was massive and it was nationwide. It wasn't isolated to San Diego. Though there were some San Diego properties involved.
Wow. Well, and that's, we work hand in hand with title and you guys with the reconveyances, because that's title's job, is to make sure that if there are any reconveyances on the property, they are truly from the bank and they're not fraudulent. And that's one of the most important things that title insurance does, is we make sure that there are no fraudulent deeds on the property. So that's kind of where we work hand in hand with real estate attorneys.
I will tell you, I am a big fan of insurance. The alternative to not having insurance is the people involved, especially the homeowner or a real estate agent or broker who's involved, they all get brought into the litigation, and it becomes just astronomically expensive. And insurance comes in, and that cost can be passed on to the title insurance company insofar as there's title insurance.
Well, that's what insurance is all about.
Yeah, since you brought that up, do you have any, without disclosing names and parties or anything, but is there any wild stories that you can think of that somebody didn't have title insurance and you were just pulling out your hair, why did you not get title insurance?
Usually banks require title insurance. So when you see it, it's usually in a transaction where there's an investor that chooses to ignore it and is a cash buyer.
Cash.
Right.
And so if they're coming in with, and it's amazing to me that people can have so much money but yet be so stingy when it comes time to get involved,
Especially with insurance.
Get insurance and getting involved in these very, very large dollar balance transactions. And it to me, that's stepping on a dollar to pick up a dime. It's foolish, but it happens all the time. I do have clients that are real estate investors that have ignored the warnings and the advice of counsel to purchase title insurance in the transaction, and sometimes that has come back to bite them.
Yeah. Well, when you are an attorney and you're representing yourself, you have a fool for a client, right?
Oh, that's true. That's true. That is true.
Well, one of the reasons I really love working with you is you've talked as many clients out of using your services because you're not cheap, as you have retained their services or they've retained your services, which it speaks to, it speaks to ethics, speaks to honesty, and that's of course why we love working with you.
There's a reason for that, and the reason for it is I look at the client's transaction and I ask myself, do I have anything to offer this client that is of value compared to the alternative of them doing absolutely nothing? What people fail to consider when they're looking at options to solve a problem is what is the value of doing nothing? And sometimes, not always, but sometimes the option of doing nothing is better than the alternative of spending money on the legal solution. And if I see that, then I'll tell the client, I have nothing to offer you that can compete with the alternative of doing nothing. That builds integrity, the clients respect it, and they'll come back.
It saves them $500 an hour, right?
Yeah, it saves them
Yeah.
So I mean,
That's
from the large
awesome.
scale investor, buy and hold, flip, fix and flip, whatever that model, all the way down to the single operating realtor, you can offer your assistance to anyone, or is there anybody specific that should reach out and consult?
Yeah, I solve real estate problems. That's what we do. We solve real estate problems. We hold ourselves out as real estate problem solvers, and so we look for a way to solve the problem. I wish all problems could be solved. Some problems can't be solved. We did have a case not too long ago where the client came in, and it turned out when you take into consideration the liens that were on the property that he assumed when he purchased the property, he made a mistake as to how much was owing on these liens, and as a consequence, there was no value to the property. The property was over encumbered, and so. What do you? Well, some mistakes are
He
so.
must have not called his trusted title company then.
Well, what's funny is in this particular instance he did. He just ignored what was on the title.
Oh.
Stubbornness, man. Stubbornness. You'll pay the price for stubbornness, I tell you.
Well, there is a saying. I think it's you can't fix something, but I don't want to say it.
Stubbornness.
Yeah, stubbornness.
Well, we are delighted to have you. I'm so happy that you took the time today. To our audience, we're always in an attempt to bring value, education, and resources. And what a tremendous resource Alan has been in my career, and Haylie and I refer him on the regular. If you have any questions as to his scope of work, I know that he's always happy to take a phone call, always happy to engage you in email to go over whatever scenario you're working with at the time. Any parting thoughts or anything that we can leave the audience with?
Well, I would suspect most of the audience are going to be residential property buyers or owners, and my recommendation when they go to buy a property is have a contractor go out and look at the property. Don't trust that the seller is going to make all the adequate disclosures. Oftentimes, if the seller doesn't make the adequate disclosures and you catch them, yeah, the law may be on your side, but if the seller has moved out of the state or has moved out of the country or otherwise doesn't have assets, the legal option is going to produce a piece of paper that says you have the right to collect, but it's not going to produce money that's going you can put into your bank account to solve the problem. And so being proactive is far more valuable than reacting to a problem after it arises.
The ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right?
That's exactly, I love that saying. That's exactly right.
Well, that's why we get title insurance, you know? So
Yeah.
we work hand in hand, obviously. But any parting thoughts, Haylie, or any questions before we bail out of here?
No, super excited to have you. And yeah, like this was actually my first time meeting Alan, and we have talked multiple times on the phone because I've had questions come up and I didn't know what to do, and I knew he was the guy to call. So he's always available, really awesome, and super just excited to work with him.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming in. And look, if you have any legal questions, like I said, he'll try to talk you out of using him, but still give him a call. His consultations are more than valuable. They have been to me anyway. So thanks again, Alan. Until next time.
Thank you, Ryan.
Out.
Appreciate it. Thank you.